shut your eyes and try to remember those pictures that used to hang on the wall of the Sunday school room or the Catholic school classroom, where this beautiful flaxen-haired Jesus had his arms around two Anglo-Saxon children. Can you remember that? Well, try to erase it, because it was very unrealistic. The point of this teaching of Jesus isn't that we should be nice to children. Sometimes that's very difficult, I admit. But in his day, children weren't worth a damn. It's hard for us to accept this because we love our kids. We love them so much we spoil them rotten. In his day, 30% of children never survived infancy. 60% never reached 16. And they weren't worth anything to the family until they got into their adulthood, because they were mom and dad's social security. And if they didn't live past 16, there was no social security. They were the continuation of the tribe, of the family, of the clan. We couldn't hold our own with our enemies in the next clan or family unless we had some mature people who could defend us. So children were really considered worthless. I'm sure their mothers loved them. Yeah, that's true. But as a social being, they weren't worth anything. And so when Jesus says to these people, you must welcome a child, and in welcoming a child, you're welcoming me, he's turning all their conventions, all their ideas about who has worth, who is valuable in our family and our society, he's turning that topsy-turvy. Completely, and I know it's hard for us to grasp this because we have a completely different attitude towards young people. But what he's saying here is that unless you accept and take care of and serve, which is the word he used, it's the word that's used of the activity of a slave, someone you own who has and you have rights to get certain things from that person, like work at any moment of the day or night. You have to treat people, everybody, as if you were their slave. So it's no wonder they had a hard time coming to grips with this, because 2,000 years later, have we come to grips with it? If the Christian people, if the disciples, if the church, I don't mean hierarchy and Rome and the Vatican, I mean us. If over 2,000 years we had been serving humanity in the way described by Jesus, we would not be in the state we're in today, with one nation against another, religions warring against each other, neighbors not speaking to each other. If we had obeyed Jesus, followed his example, and this is coming right after his prediction of his being killed, the Passion prediction, which he invites us into, and which we are here this morning to accept that invitation, because when we go to communion, when we celebrate the Eucharist, it is the Paschal mystery that we're celebrating. What is the Paschal mystery? It's a very nice word. It reminds me of Easter lilies, but it means willing to die for others as Jesus was willing to die for others, with the confidence that even if when we submit ourselves to that kind of death for others, we will be raised up. But every generation has to come to grips with this and wrestle with this and come to terms with it. Unfortunately, our terms over the centuries, I think, have been, well, you know, I'd rather have the picture on the Sunday school wall because that's much more easy to handle, that kind of a Jesus. But that's not the Jesus of the New Testament. It's not the Jesus of the gospel narrative. And if we want to relate to a person, we always try, I hope, to relate to the real person, not the facade, especially when it's a facade that we have created for that person. We've got to relate on the level of truth. You say, well, what can we do about this? You know, what can we do about this? My world is so small. Your world is the only one, and my world is the only one I'm responsible for. But I am responsible for serving the needs of my family, and you got to be careful there, because that could be self-aggrandizement if you're not careful, or the neighbors, and you know how they are, or the other parishioners, or the other people in my monastery, or wherever your milieu is, wherever you are. This is where Jesus calls us to accept everybody who we think is worthless as accepting him. Like he accepted these non-entities in his society and told his disciples to do the same. That should give us a lot of work for the next week before we come to Eucharist again.